Rob, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Alan. Good to be here.
Good afternoon, buddy. I'm happy to see you. I'm really excited to do this session with you. You
Yeah,
are our 11th guest on the Ace List Live. But I'm excited to see you because you and I are both chatterboxes.
I'm going to try and rein it in today.
Love
So,
watches, any watch, anything that ticks, talks, or displays time. So this promises to be a fun session. We're going to freestyle. We actually didn't prepare anything. We covered the classics for Fratello things with Robert Jan
of
Brewer.
course, of
So
course.
I think we'll do Little Speedy Tuesday, right? We covered that.
Yeah, we can touch on it if you like, but it's his forte, not mine.
Yeah. Usually I let my guests introduce themselves, but you are such a special guest and a friend to us that I want to introduce you, and you can fill in the blanks. So Rob Nudds is English. He lives in Germany right now, and you're in Dresden right now.
I am in Dresden right now. Yes, yeah,
You're in your office, right?
in my office.
Your office. Today, officially, your title is managing editor for Fratello
Yep.
Watches.
For now, yeah.
Yeah, for now. But you're way more than that. You're a watchmaker.
I was.
At WIS, you're a watch freak. You're a
Yeah.
freak anyways.
Thanks.
Um, Jolly guy, fun-loving guy, globetrotter, been around. We became friends when we met at our first appointment ever in Basel World at the Nomos Glass at the booth.
Yeah, you got lucky that email landed with me because I finally approved it. I didn't know who you were. They've been saying no.
We've
Not this
been
guy.
stalking Nomos for years to get the dealership. People think that we are Nomos dealers for decades, even from the beginning, and they're less than 30 years young. But it's, I believe, only 5 years now, only. But we have such deep passion for the brand and the watches. And I think you just started there as a brand manager, although you're a watchmaker.
Yeah, I'd only been there for a month or two. I think I was completely green to the network, and you were the first big retailer we brought on board during my tenure. So
Yeah.
happy days. It worked out quite nicely.
So we met you. Dal and I came to visit Martina and you. I think we hit it off, all four of us, and especially with you. And you really made a case for us to get the dealership. That you guys even granted it on the fair, and
It was a no-brainer. I mean,
and arrange everything. So we owe you that. Then we had amazing fun when you visited us. You trained us. You have deep knowledge about watches, anyways, about Nomos as well, and something that I'm super grateful. But we'll discuss that topic on our wrist check because I'm curious what you strapped on today. So we'll come back to that. But I'll shut up. You fill in the blanks. Tell us a bit about you, please.
well, you covered most of the important things. Technically, I'm Irish. I was born in Dublin, but I certainly give off a bit of an English vibe because I grew up in Manchester. So I've been there nearly all my life. I do now live in Dresden, just a short 45 minutes away from Glasgow, so I can pop over to see my former employers whenever I like, and I'll actually be visiting them on Monday, so that'll be quite exciting. Prior to working for Nomos and meeting you guys in Basel, I was a watchmaker at that time, working for Bremont. Prior to that, I did my apprenticeship with Omega, which is a bit of a coincidence that now I work for Fratello. It was not planned in that way, but I've come full circle to be writing about the watches that I first learned to service. While I was working for Bremont, I started writing for a blog to watch, and that was the first major journalistic contribution I made to the industry, and I stayed there off and on for about 5 years until I took the Fratello gig in January this year, and that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Awesome. Which is actually a rare combo, a watchmaker that also knows how to write properly.
Well, funnily enough, I wanted to be a writer before I was a watchmaker. I wanted to write about watches, but I didn't want to. All the journalism that I read at the time was very superficial and stylistic and all reference heavy text. I wanted something a bit more in depth. I wanted to know why a watch was good, so I went and did an apprenticeship, and here we are. I got lucky.
Interesting. So it's indeed full circle, and you landed at one of our favorite online watch magazines, anyways Dutch, and our mutual friend Robert Jan and the crew, Gerard, Bert, etc. So that's amazing, and we're having actually a lot of fun working together again. So thank you for that. Shall we commence with our wrist check?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you 3 guesses what I'm wearing. 3 guesses. We didn't talk about this.
No,
Honest
we
to
didn't. We
God,
didn't prepare this.
No
We
plan.
never prepare it.
Go on. Have a guess. What's it going to be?
I know the majority of your collection, and what I love about your collection is super diverse.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Anything from micro brands, even Kickstarter project. I know you funded a few.
I have.
I know your Tucker is high up there because it's orange. I'm kind of hoping you worn this one.
I did wear that one. Yeah, I did. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So we're winning.
Hey, you inspired me. I put it onto this brown Nero Biglia strap, which was sent through to us for review. It's really nice. You remember you used to wear your world timer on a tan or cognac style strap. Looked amazing, absolutely gorgeous. So I followed your lead.
I love tan. I love brown. I love leather, and tan is my favorite color. So yeah, I was wearing my first world sight on that one, indeed. So awesome. Should I tell the story? You tell the story why we're wearing the same watch.
You tell it. I can interject every so often if necessary.
All right. So what we're wearing, the both of us, is the first ever collab between Ace Jewelers and Nomos. It's a watch we produced together 4 years ago, I think.
I think it was 2017. It was 100 years of. It says it on the back. 2017.
So
almost exactly 3 years ago. It was September we launched it, I think so.
Yeah, you're right. And so it was to honor the 100 years of the art movement, the style in Dutch, which means the style in English. And it's a funky dial. It is. It looks very sober and classic, but if you guys can see, every index of the hour markers has a different width and length. So none of the 12-hour markers is the same. And it's monochrome, so it's silver dial, black. That's it. Yeah.
The clever thing about it, which a lot of people don't get at first, I think, is that the hour markers, even though they are different lengths and different thicknesses, are actually the same weight. They amount to the same weight. So if they're long, they're thin. If they're short, they're fat. It's very clever. It's a very nuanced style. It takes a bit to get used to, but then once you are used to it, looking at it again and again is pretty satisfying. And it's particularly nice in candlelight if you want to have a romantic moment with your watch, as I noticed in a speakeasy in Oklahoma on one occasion.
And we won't ask who you were easily speaking to and what you were drinking, because you're now in a relationship with a stunning woman who you should keep. So
that story wouldn't unfound a relationship.
Engagement ring for you. Just let us know. I hope she's not watching right now.
She definitely is watching, so thanks for that. I'll be discussing that later, no doubt.
Drop us an email, sweetheart.
Oh, God, here we go.
Anyway,
every time. Always trying to get me hitched.
I think it's time. I think it's time. Make an honorable woman out of her. Don't be millennial. Don't be modern.
She doesn't need my marriage to make her honorable. She's plenty honorable enough.
We could maybe say the reverse. Being with you makes her less honorable, but that's a different discussion. So back to the watch. So we were only a dealer for 1 year plus, and then we were blunt enough in our Amsterdam way of being blunt and straight to the point. We wanted a limited edition. So they started laughing in Glashütte. Like, really? Limiteds? We're not doing limiteds. We have too many. We don't want to do it. Prove yourself. We don't know how good you guys are doing, etc., etc., etc. But here comes Rob. Friend, he believed in us. He drove the management team in Glashütte crazy.
Yeah, I made a habit of that, I think.
Yeah, you drove them mad. So he got it done. So that's the second thing we owe you. And you got it done for us. We launched it together. Dala just showed us a screenshot of the article of the launch event we did in Amersfoort, Dala's hometown, where
great.
you have an amazing museum, which I highly recommend to visit. So it's the Mondian House. And so that was fun. And you won't recognize that dude, but that's his twin. That's Rob's twin.
I look like some kind of, I don't know, like a politician about to deliver a
Yeah, or a
devastating
mad
speech.
scientist.
Yeah, or a mad scientist, actually. That's probably a little bit. Holding a tiny chair. It's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but the 2017 version. I hope it does not look well then.
The chair made by Rietveld, by the way.
That was the winning piece, right? That I picked for the I like that.
That was a fun event. So that's how we started off, and Rob decided to leave us, which made us mourn for a long time. But Martina took good care of us. Ever since we launched 3 more limited editions, and we just showed something very unique to Rob backstage before we went live. We highly recommend everybody to register to our newsletter, as we're going to drop something amazing, fresh and new in a few weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending how COVID is treating us and the people, the watchmakers, Rob's ex-colleagues in Glashütte. So it depends how fast they can screw. So that's cool. So thank you for putting that on. And I don't know if you want to add something to that, to your watch, your story, this story.
Yeah, well, it was a great pleasure for me to be involved in that project as well. When I was an apprentice, sitting at the bench, dreaming of what career I might be able to have in watchmaking, having some input and agency over a watch that was made by a brand and actually put out there into the world and to become a real thing that people buy and wear was about as high as my ambition could have grown. And to see it come to pass with this watch, which I obviously bought one myself and wear it frequently, and I haven't just put it on for today. I've been wearing it every day this week.
Awesome.
It's my most worn watch, and I have. If you follow my Fratello profile that we were establishing now, we were establishing the Fratello Lounge so people can build profiles and keep track of their own watch collection. I have 75 watches or so, and this is the one that I wear more frequently than any other. It's brilliant. It's a weird one. I wasn't 100% convinced that it would be as popular as it turned out to be, because I was concerned people wouldn't get it. But the people that did really, really got it. And I still get people stopping and reminding me of this watch as if I'd ever forget about it. And I was still around by the time we released the second one, the Club, as well, because Dala and I put that color scheme together ourselves. And I've got that one as well. I don't wear it as much. In fact, one of my best friends has kind of hijacked it. He thinks it's the most glorious watch he's ever seen in his life. He's not even into watches.
Smart guy.
Well, he obviously does have an eye for it, so I let him wear it most of the time. But I'm thinking of putting it on a new strap. Actually, I might shift it around. I've got my Speedmaster on a Yellow Dog rubber Zulu at the moment, a 4-ring Zulu, which was custom made for me by Alex Moss, who owns Yellow Dog watch straps, great company in the UK. I'm thinking of putting that onto the Club and giving my Speedy a run out on this new Forstner flat link. Yeah, they were kind enough to send us a few of these sample bracelets. So I've got all my Nezumi Mecha Quartz chronographs on these classic Forstner bracelets, and I stuck my dad's Tissot on one of the Comfit bracelets the other day. And I think that the Nomos Club might make way for a NATO or a Zulu, so that my Speedy can get going.
Dala actually, I think, wears it a lot on.
They're awesome. They're really nice.
I put my the style one on the original woven Nomos strap. It's the dark blue one. The lighting is not that amazing, but I love it. So.
Well, you mean the one from the Ahoy?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I used to wear my Weltzeit on that strap. It's so comfortable. Yeah.
Oh, the Weltzeit is obviously thicker, so I think this strap is too thin. But the Orion is so slim.
Yeah.
I love this strap. So that's nice. Do you want to tell a little anecdote? We can see, if we go here on the background, you'll see the club that Rob is referring at. You'll see a Roman numeral 4. Do you want to explain to our viewers why it was so difficult to do a 2-tone numeral, especially what we did together here, because that's why it took very long to produce that dial. You remember about the bleeding you told us?
Yeah, it is difficult. Normal styles are basically the central attraction to the watch because all the focus falls on them. The case shape is obviously very important, but the typography and the crispness of the printing is paramount to the deliverance of a message that Nomos is trying to send with everything that the brand does. The club that we have there is obviously in the Amsterdam set or the Amsterdam series of watches that Ace has produced with Nomos, and there's 3 of them now. You can see them all in the background. We've got the most recent Weltzeit, which I wasn't around for, but absolutely adore. And then the Tangenta at the top, the most recent one, which we recently reviewed on Fratello. I absolutely love it. I think it's miles better than the Bauhaus models upon which it's based. And then we have the club. So you'll notice that the club dial is a slightly different color from the other 2. It's like a lighter black, as it were. It's more of a ruthenium color than it is a pure flat black. And originally we wanted a pure flat black, but we had a bit of a problem when it came to building up the colors on the dial at that time. It was new territory for Nomos, really. So what we didn't want to do was risk losing any kind of clarity or crispness in the application of the red onto the white background, which would have looked a little duller at the time had we not double or triple printed it onto the flat black we looked at initially. So it's a long process, and given the fact it's an inverted panda dial, or reverse panda with the white subdial, it was more complicated to produce than I think the end result immediately looks like it should have been. It's a very clear, crisp, clean dial, I think, and the red numerals really are what make it stand out, but they were not easy.
No, and what you said to us was that we were a lot of trial and error, a lot of prototype dials went into the rubbish bin due to the fact that the white and red started bleeding and you got pink, right? So
yeah,
that was difficult to master.
Yeah, because if you look very, very closely at the club numerals, they are very heavily applied. They're rounded, like they're not inflated. It's not the kind of paint that like puffs up like the old like World War II pocket watches used to use. It's not inflatable paint, as it were. It's actually just multi-applied and very heavily applied. You have to do it very precisely, or it just goes very badly wrong very quickly.
Yeah, so that's stunning. So awesome. Thank you for sharing. Should we dive into the Ace List 7 questions?
We better had before we run out of time.
First one, what watch or jewel is your favorite and why?
You know, I knew you were going to ask me this. I did. I mean, I've watched some of the Ace List episodes, and I really tried to think of an answer that I could hang my hat on, but it's very, very difficult. Watch and/or jewel. Well, I'll leave the jewel question. I suppose opal is my favorite stone because I like the colors. But watch. My gut instinct tells me that it's got to be something from HYT, which is probably going to get me into a lot of trouble. But I still adore that brand. They absolutely blew me away when I went out to Porto Cervo to visit them in 2015, I guess it was now. It was the first major watch tour that I'd been on. It was before my time at Nomos, so before I'd been all around the States and all around Europe. And I was kind of mesmerized by it and the watches themselves. That technology is still, to me, it's just crazy. It's just so cool. I don't like the later stuff so much when it became a bit more sculptural. But this initial concept with the glass capillary, which is manufactured by the sister company Pressaflex, is absolutely remarkable. There's barely any fluid inside that. There's actually 2 fluids. For anyone that's not aware of what's going on here, at the bottom you can see 2 bellows that are angled in different directions on this model. This is taken from the H2, I guess, if it's got the angled bellows. One of them is full of colored fluid, one of them is full of clear fluid, and these 2 fluids run through this microcapillary separated by a very fine meniscus. It's imperceptible to us, but there is actually something sitting between the 2 so they don't bleed into one another. As one bellow,
straight line.
It's a straight line. It's completely sharp. Yeah. And this is your hour indication. It's not an hour hand. So where the color disappears and the clear fluid takes over, it's marking the hour. It is not luminous, but it does like reflect light very well. What's the word? Is it phosphorescent or it's one of the 2? It's not. I always get confused. Yeah. So
or luminous.
Some of the later models actually do have a track of lume beneath the capillary, so and maybe black fluid in the capillary, and that's a really
They
cool
also
look.
did red and they did different colors, blue.
Yep, red and blue especially, and this new jet black one that they have in some of the later stuff. Very cool. And as one bellow depresses, the other one expands, and the two fluids are pushed back and forwards like this. And when it gets to the end of its track around the dial, it goes back into the original bellow in a retrograde function. It's just so different. There are some really classic watches. My favorite newest brand that I've just encountered at the start of this year is Tulloch, founded by a Kiwi guy, Shane Tulloch, who's currently based in New York. He's put out this first watch, the TO1, that is just absolutely gorgeous. It has the old regulator style dial and a really symmetrical movement, which appeals to me. So when it comes to traditional style of watches, yeah, I'd say Tulloch is really rocketing up there. There it is. Wow, that's amazing. He's so fast on the keyboard, old dialer. Yeah, beautiful stuff. And
so this also proves you're super modern, but you also go back to classic.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a mixed bag, I guess. I mean, I have a huge collection of G-Shocks as well that I actually wear and use in the environment for which they're intended. So I'm a bit of a, I suppose I'm a bit of an eclectic person, although I never think of it like that. I don't set out to be that way. I like good design.
We share that passion. It's a wide range of what makes us tick literally in our watch collecting and passions. But you've mentioned two watches that you don't own. So they're on your wrist list, your wish list for your wrist. What in your current collection is one of your favorites?
Oh, goodness me. Well, I mean, this one's right up there. It is.
Okay, we discussed that one.
So I often ask myself, and this is the only way I can really do it, is what would be the last watch I'd be willing to part with in my collection? So if I had to give them all away, if I had to sell them for whatever reason, the Speedmaster, the 1998 Broad Arrow replica, 57 replica that I've got, I love it. I wear it an awful lot, probably the second in my collection rotation after this one. But it wouldn't be that. That wouldn't be the last one to go. I love my Laventure Marine. This is one of those micro brands on Kickstarter that I always bang on about, and I absolutely adore that green dial version. That one is right there. It's probably in the number 2 position, but the one that I'd be most loath to say goodbye to is actually my Breitling Aerospace.
Really?
Yeah. Did you not? No, I love the Aerospace.
Say that. No.
Okay, so the reason behind it is not just the fact that it's one of the Everest Skydive special editions from 2009. There's only 25 pieces of it in the world, which is amazing. I got it for an absolute song from a UK jewelers that had it sitting in the back for 10 years, and then they put it on sale last year with like a 0% finance offer. I think I paid £1,500 for it, and I paid an amount up front and then just paid the rest off over the year because there was no reason why not to. But the reason is, when I graduated from the British School of Watchmaking, I had no money. I had no watches. I had a couple of Casio F91Ws that I treasured and still do. And I had nothing to wear to our graduation at the Midland Hotel in Manchester, and I felt a bit ashamed by it. And my friend Aaron Shirley, who did his apprenticeship with Breitling, lent me his Aerospace for that event. And so I always promised myself that if I ever had any kind of money, or I had the means to buy one of these watches and it became available, I would. And I wanted a dark dial. That was about it as far as my remit went. And when it popped up, I couldn't believe my luck. And yeah, that's the last one I'd let go. And the funny thing is, I'd forgotten this. I didn't do this deliberately. I wear it on an Ace strap that you gave me for my birthday a couple of years ago. So thanks for that.
What is it? The grey camo?
Yeah, grey camo. Yeah, because the standard Breitling strap is too big for me, and I need to go to Grenchen to get a smaller one and have it put through their blockchain certification process. But with traveling restricted as it is, it's not possible.
It's interesting though. So that's the red line in all these conversations, and especially question 1, is it's the story behind the watch, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it's not so much definitely not the value. It's definitely not the brand. Always, but it's the story behind it, because we share that passion for aerospace, you and I. Dala loves it as well. I know Gerard loves his aerospaces. Obadiah not so much, I think.
He did just buy one though. He bought one recently.
He did.
Yeah, of course. He got bitten by the bug.
So, and for me, it's always my dad loved Breitling. So he always had the chronomats back in 83, 84, 85. He had also the aerospace because the Israeli pilots love the aerospace still till today. And we had all these airline crews come, the IDF and etc. So that always stuck with me. And that's the story because I looked up obviously to my dad and these pilots that came in when I was a little kid, always rocking usually a two-tone on the flexible strap.
Nice.
So yeah, here's my dad. So in a biking trip, I don't know if he's rocking his aerospace. So yeah, so cool to see.
It'd be great if that was a live link up and that's actually what he's doing right now.
Yeah, Ramon style. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
How far back do you want to go? So when I was a little tiny kid?
This is your platform. You can speak. It's your stepping stone.
So the first thing I remember wanting to be, and I had a lot of dreams as a kid, and I think I flipped about quite a lot, which if you know me very well, you know I'm always changing in direction very quickly. So no surprises to know there's been a few dreams from childhood that have lingered. First, I wanted to be an astronaut, and I was a member of a Cub Scout group when I was little, and we could earn these little badges to put on our uniforms. And my troop had very limited means. We didn't really have access to a lot of the stuff that was the bigger, better funded areas did. So we could only do 1 or 2 badges. I had like 5 scientist badges and 4 hobby badges, and I kept accruing these astronomy badges. And I was making things like telescopes out of washing up liquid bottles that you could put constellations, slide little constellations into. And the leader of the troop asked me why I kept doing these astronomy badges. And I said, well, I want to be an astronaut when I grow up. And she looked at me, still remember it now, like there was a lot of pity in her eyes. And she just told me that that I wasn't tall enough. And I'm not a tall guy at all. I'm 170 centimeters for anyone that cares to know. And I don't think that should preclude you from being an astronaut. I'm pretty sure that it doesn't. And I'm pretty sure that in the early 90s, when she must have told me this, there had been astronauts shorter than me. So at the time I was devastated and I just took it as gospel. And so I moved on to my next dream of being a cross-channel ferry captain. I like routines. I like very repetitive.
To Holland or France?
Just France, just Dover to Calais, Calais to Dover, Dover to Calais. I'd just go back and forward, back and forward.
Holland.
Well, Holland was just not on my radar at the time. When we were kids, we used to go camping once a year in France. So we would take this boat, and I loved it. I'm a keen kayaker now, and I've sailed a little bit in the past, although not very good at it. My nickname at the sailing club was Captain Capsize because I was the only person able to sink the training boat. Terrible weight distribution, apparently. But my love of like the sea and the ocean and whatnot was built up by these cross-channel ferry journeys. But then, quite depressingly, I got convinced when I was about 12 years old that I wouldn't be able to have a family if I had a job like that. I never countenanced the possibility of traveling all around the world for a watch brand and how disruptive that would be to relationships and the possibility of having children. But there we go. So I shelved that idea and focused on becoming a professional cyclist. And that was what I wanted to do until I got quite badly run over in my late teens and broke quite a few bones. And that kind of ended my cycling career, which was probably not going to be too promising. But if I'd got to ride the Tour de France once, that would have been nice.
Interesting.
So that was it.
Good. Third question: who's your role model?
That's a tough one. When I was a kid, it was Richard Virenque, the French cyclist, the mountain climber, specialist in climbing mountains and trying to get away with blood doping, which is a good way to sort of strip someone down from that pedestal if you care about those things, which I didn't because I was adamant as a child that the entire peloton, or at least the riders we cared about, were all taking drugs anyway. So Virenque was my hero and I suppose role model, even through that rather dark period in the late 90s. Later on in life, it's always been athletes. It's always been sports people. Larry Fitzgerald is my favorite wide receiver, my favorite player in the NFL, which is my first love.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, great figure in his community, intelligent, well-spoken, great example to kids. I think I'm a bit too old to need that kind of life example now, but I respect him a great deal. I just think, athletes, hundreds of them. I could list them all, but we've only got an hour, so.
Nice. All right. So let's move on quickly because we're having questions coming in. So
Cool.
I'll also give our viewers a platform to ask questions and interact with us because I warned that we're chatterboxes, so we're already halfway, so we need to get going. Question 4, if you could teleport tomorrow, where would you go?
I would go back to Nashville and I would sit upstairs in the Red Bar on the corner of Broadway and probably smoke myself into a stupor while watching country music stars all night long. But I'm not sure I want to go there in lockdown. I think it would depress me too much. But as soon as things are back to normal, should that ever come to pass, Nashville.
And you visited there because you traveled the all of North America for Nomos, right?
Yeah, I got away with this one. I got to give credit to Merlin, my old boss in New York. He dumped me in Evansville, Indiana. No offense to Evansville, cool place. I love Indiana as a state as well. Awesome. Some of my best memories are from there. He dumped me there on Friday night, and there wasn't a whole lot to do. And I noticed, being a bit of an Americophile, that I was only a couple of hours on a Greyhound away from Nashville. I'd never been there. I'm a massive country music fan. And I thought, hell, I'll see if I can swing this. So I asked him, I said, straight up, I want to go to Nashville for the weekend. I don't want to spend the weekend in South Indiana. And he said, yeah, fine, go check out a retailer while you're there on Saturday and just, call it a break. So I did. And that was a lot of fun.
Cool. Nice. What book are you currently reading?
Although I'm sounding quite one-dimensional, I'm reading a book called Paper Lion by George Plimpton. It's a bit of gonzo journalism about a guy that managed... Huh?
Plimpton or Clinton? C or P?
P. Plimpton. He's a journalist that managed to wangle his way onto the Detroit Lions squad for a season.
Of American football.
Of American football. He was on there, technically on the books as like a third-string quarterback. No real hope of seeing the field at all, but he wanted to write about a team from the inside out. So my best mate, Max, he bought me that book for my birthday a few years ago. Oh, there it is, right there. That's it. So more football, more sports, yeah.
Where did you pick up the passion for American football?
My dad wanted me to be a pro athlete in some description. He was a pretty decent marathon runner himself, and he raised me and my brother in a kind of military environment to make sure that we could hold our own on a sporting field. And when I was 3 years old, he decided that I was old enough to focus on a sport. So he spent a few months kicking and throwing everything he could find at me to see what I could catch or respond to. And apparently I could catch an American football. In fact, believe it or not, hold on a second.
That's it.
I still have it. This is the ball that he gave me when I was 3 years old. It's a Denver Broncos ball.
Awesome.
I've had it with me ever since. He bought me that, and it started an obsession, which has just spiraled way out of control. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome story. 6th question is, what do you think is going to be the color of 2021?
I've got a pretty good record of guessing this, so I'm quite confident with my answer. I think it's going to be something in the teal sphere. I know teal. A few years ago in 2017, there was a color, I can't remember the name of it, had some stupid name like they often do, like sea foam mist or something, was voted the most popular color in the world. And it was like a blue, green, teal color. Mm-hmm. I think that we're going in that direction now. I think people have suddenly realized that teal works quite nicely with like a sort of cream or gray background and accented with other hot colors to give a kind of neo-vintage vibe, which I think the watchmaking industry is experiencing as well as the fashion industry. So I'd say probably some kind of teal, not a dark one, like a mid-teal, I guess.
Okay, interesting. It's the first time we heard it on the show, so...
Oh, what did other people say?
It's blue, 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 green, 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 green.
Oh, blue's 2020. You need to get
it's
somewhere in between.
This trend is going on already for more than 3 years. Longer. Green was 2020, 2019 even. In jewelry, we saw it a bit earlier. but I think it's really in multicolor. It's tutti frutti. It's everything.
Well, that's why I put blue and green together. You see, I'm just kind of hedging my bets somewhere in between the two.
Good one. Good one. That's a good one. Last question. Obviously, you've been to Amsterdam. You visited us often. What is your favorite memory in Amsterdam?
Well, we share a lot of good memories, professionally speaking. Working together on the Digital Edition was a great period of time, and it was lovely being there with you and Martina and Dalla and Tamara and the rest of the team. Personally, though, my best memory is in Mulligan's Irish Music Bar, being gifted a Guinness and a baby Guinness by Lloyd O'Mahony, the barman there, who plays Gaelic football for Amsterdam, I believe. Nice guy who I got to know. As I mentioned, I was born in Ireland, and I have a lot of affection for Irish music, and generally trawl the city streets looking for a bar that has it wafting out of its windows whenever I'm on the road. So Mulligan's is my favorite place.
Where is it in Amsterdam, address-wise?
Where is it? That's it is not too far from Königsplein, actually. The address is on the Amstel, definitely. Goodness me, I'm trying to give directions in Amsterdam now. If you walked out of where Ace and Spire was, and then you took a right, and you carried on walking underneath the big porcelain tower, and then you stick on that road to the right and keep the river on your left, it's kind of at the end of that road. Yeah, there's a picture of it there.
Yeah, that's it.
I think am I close with my directions there? I think I'm in the right kind of zone. I actually for years I had it in the wrong place in my memory. I had it nearer to the central station. I had it like a few streets up, but it's about 800 meters away from where I thought it was. But I could find my way there in the dark right now. So as I often do. So yeah.
All right, awesome. So those were the 7 questions. I have a bonus question for you.
Okay.
You and I have been discussing actually for years that millimeters of a case width don't say anything.
Right.
This is important. Everything is about proportions, 3-dimensional. And you cracked the code.
Well, I got part way there.
Get enough credit for it, yeah. So I want you to lay down your eureka moment about the visual index.
The eureka moment of when I realized that we were looking at it in the wrong way, or the eureka moment of when I kind of figured out how to express
what it is, how you came about to that eureka moment.
Okay, well, the visual impact index is something that I created a few months ago after a few weeks of intense thought to try and describe to people who couldn't see a watch in person, as many of us are unable to do in these days, how the watch actually appeared, not how it wore. This is kind of a key distinction. A lot of people, I think, treat it as a wearability index, but that is something I am working on with the visual impact index in mind as a component thereof. But wearability is far harder to distill into a mathematical formula simply because everybody's wrists are not just different sizes, but different shapes, and they are on the end of arms that are different lengths and different thicknesses and different skin tones. And all of these things do play into wearability. The visual impact index is supposed to express how true to size a watch looks when it is off the wrist. You will notice that some watches have diameters that don't seem to express their true appearance. And the best example I have in my collection is the one on my wrist right now, the Nomos Orion 38. It has an edge-to-edge sapphire, basically non-existent, curvaceous bezel, and a white dial with very little interrupting it whatsoever. But most importantly, the ratio of case thickness to its diameter means that it wears like a dinner plate, as I often say, just wide and flat and close to the wrist. If you put it through the visual impact index, which takes into account things like bezel width and dial decoration, which can also busy up a dial and make it appear smaller, it comes out somewhere in the region of 42, is it, or 43 millimeters, which might sound enormous, but relatively speaking, it's kind of true, because if you put it next to a 42 millimeter Breitling Aerospace, for example, which isn't a particularly thick watch, although it does possess a large bezel, it looks as big, if not bigger. And so you can kind of get a feel for it when you've had a lot of watches passing through your hands. Some are true to size, some are not. Watch designers, I think, could use this index to go backwards, to design backwards, to try and get a watch to come out true to size. Be aware of its perfect proportions, which is based around the golden ratio. I decided that, I think, was it the radius I ended up using for K should be, yeah, the thickness should be, the radius should be 1.6 of the thickness. It might sound a bit spurious looking back on it now, but I went through hundreds of different versions of this, using the measurements in different ways to get really to an answer that just felt right. And I used the Orient Star model that's in the article Dallas scrolling through now, and the Orion as my guinea pigs. And when I got to a situation that seemed to make sense with tweaks that I added in along the way, I think I changed the computation aspect of the bezel thickness as well in the end. I just ran through 100 watches through it, and I was pretty satisfied with how it came out. It was, I think, it expressed exactly what I wanted it to express. It is by no means perfect. It is certainly not an absolute metric, but I think it is useful, certainly as a starting point for discussion. And a lot of people have chimed in with suggestions of how to improve it, although most of those suggestions do feed more into a wearability index than a visual impact index. And I will build that in time. Give me some time.
Did you listen to my advice to register VII.com or Visual Index?
I did. I bought it. Yeah.
So
I think I got VII.watch, I think is what I got.
So I told them to produce an online tool, which for now you can use that article on FratelloWatches.com. Just Google Visual Impact Index, find that article, super interesting. I want to ask you to run a test to my theory that especially Omega and a lot of producers actually use this analogy, this philosophy, or this theory. Every black version of a watch that's based on the steel model, let's say, visually black looks smaller. That's why a lot of people wear black clothing. It makes you look slimmer. It's that psychological effect or visual effect. So often they grow the black version versus the steel version, so it optically looks the same case diameter. Take a Seamaster 300 diver. The ceramic version is 2 millimeters bigger, about 5% on average bigger than the steel one. Yep. Take all the dark sides. They're always 44, never in the 42 case. Again, millimeters plus, more. IDMC does it a lot. The black ones are always bigger than the steel versions. So I want to put in a request, write an article about that, how that relates back to the VII, if that's true and if the brands use it. And then my second question was, has it been picked up ever since you wrote that article about a year ago, less than a year ago? Has it been picked up by brands?
It was only a few months, I guess. Only a couple of months, perhaps. I mean, I've only been with Fratello since January, so it was probably June or May or something along those lines I wrote it.
Yeah.
So to the second question first, I did get a little note via RJ from someone in the product development team at Omega that had commented that it was very interesting, that they would like look at it. I don't know if brands are using it, if they're trying to reverse engineer the perfect proportioned watch from it. Bear in mind, of course, it doesn't compensate for lugs as well. This is what the wearability index will try and account for. So you can't use it to design a watch from start to finish. You can use it to balance the thickness, the width, and dial and bezel elements. And I think that people should maybe try and do that. It might be quite interesting to see what the outcome is. But it isn't by any means like a start to finish guide. To your first question or postulation of the black issue, a lot of people mentioned this. They said the color of the case was something that I needed to factor into it. Again, I think it's probably more down to wearability because it's a lot of how it sits on your wrist and how it appears against your skin as a background. But you're right that people say black is slimming. I'm not sure, as someone that did work quite a bit in the fashion sphere before becoming a watchmaker, that it is entirely true. I think that black really enhances what you have to begin with. So if you are slim already, black will definitely make you look even slimmer. If you're not so slim, however, it can have the opposite effect, and we end up with the black hole theory, as I used to call it. And I think that's kind of true of watches as well. You're totally right. Your example of the Seamaster 300M is a perfect one, how they grew the case for a couple of millimeters and did it in black. Cool looking watch. That's the one without the date as well, right? Right. I like it.
Master Diver 300 that they did without date.
Yeah,
no date.
I really like that. But I lament its size. I really don't want it in the bigger size. I want it smaller, if anything. I don't think it's necessary. I think that the problem you end up with these larger black watches is that they really just dominate and consume like all of that wrist area. They're far more visually impacting. Can you use black in a way, like if you made a black case version of the Nomos Orion 38, would it be even smaller? Quite possibly, yes. But if you do, yeah, I think there's a cutoff point.
I will study that in a new article in the future.
Okay, I'll make a note of it. I'll put it on the list.
And in daily interaction with consumers and consumers here in our boutiques, it works because consumers don't spot when they try on that black or steel diver.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the steel, you can go for black or blue, right?
Mm-hmm.
That also gives you an effect. The blue one always looks bigger of the three. And those that have a good eye for details and let it sink in, you can't buy a watch in a minute. You need to absorb it. You need to feel it, hang out with the watch. Only then those that have a good eye for details start noticing, hey, is the black bigger? It's only after a while when they notice it. So that's interesting. Listen, Rob, we did already 3/4. We have questions coming in.
Okay.
I want the questions, if we have time, I have a zillion more questions for you. If our viewers say that this was a good session, I would love to book you for a second one.
Fine. Yep.
So we got a few questions sent to us beforehand by viewers.
Cool.
That couldn't join live. And this is a tricky one. I want to ask you to reverse engineer and guess who sent this one. I'm not going to tell you the name.
Oh, that's from RJ, from his lordship. The answer is me. I'm the coolest lord I know.
Okay,
I'm also a lord.
I'm reading out all the questions because we post this afterwards as podcast. So those that are listening and now watching. So somebody wrote, "Who's the coolest lord in capital lord you know?" And I wanted for Rob to guess who read this, and that's his colleague and the founder of Fratello Watches, Robert Jan. We call him RJ. And you guys are goofballs. You're goofing around like crazy.
Yeah, he's an international mischief maker.
Comment or question.
What? Sorry, what's?
Why is he asking you who's the?
Oh, well, so I have his lairdship or lordship that my brother bought me for my birthday. You know, one of these nonsense little packages where you own a square foot of some land in Scotland or whatnot. And he got it for me years ago. And for years and years and years, I was known as Laird Nudds. It was my Facebook name. It was every kind of profile. There was 3 Robs in our group of friends. So I was just Laird, Lairdy Pants, and all sorts of things came from it. Funnily enough, about 4 or 5 years ago, I dropped the Laird thing because people started calling me RJ, and my middle name is James. So I was on Facebook, RJ Nudds. In fact, I think when we became friends, I was probably RJ, spelled ARJAY. And I stuck with that until I met this guy, this goofball from The Hague, who, you know, I kind of like the guy. I mean, I have to work with him, so we get on all right. I stupidly let slip to him one day that I had this lordship. I think I was demanding that he referred to me as a lord or something along those lines. And to combat this, he bought himself and his daughter, Charlotte, a lordship. She's now Lady Charlotte, and he's Lord Silly Pants. Yeah, this is the origin of that question, and the answer to it is me. I am the coolest lord I know.
Okay, RJ, you can rebuttal. So, on topic of being colleagues, so how did that come about? So RJ was the founder. I believe he was the managing editor before we came on board. I know he doesn't care about titles. All you guys on the team are down to earth. Besides your silly lordships and joking around, I think you guys have too much time on your hands. I'm going to send more press releases to you guys instead of this nonsense. But wasting our time, RJ, our valuable 60 minutes here. But So what happened? How did you take the title, the lordship of
The
Fratello?
Lord of Fratello.
And became managing editor. How did that go about?
I stormed his battlements on a white steed and ran him through with a lance. And then I planted my flag in the land that was formerly his and claimed it as my own. Simple, just old school, you know. Like
Okay.
that's it.
Right, enough. I don't want to waste more time. We have valuable feedback. Dale, thank you for the screen. Kick it off, please. I'm fed up. So,
Okay.
On YouTube, watch for Rocky, our resident guest and fan. Right. Hi, Rob. How's life? Good to see you on the Ace List. What do you like most? Retailing, watchmaking, writing, representing watch brands, or managing?
Hi, Rocky. Thanks for the question. That's some good memories of hanging out in the past. Looking forward to seeing you when we can actually travel again. What do I like most? Good grief. I love writing. Writing was always my passion. I think it's, of all those things, it's probably the one that I'm best at. I have to do a lot of it as a managing editor, and sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming with the amount of words that I write and read every month. Grammarly constantly reminds me of how many words I've passed my eyes over every month, and it's well in excess of 1 million these days, which is quite a lot. So that can be quite draining. I miss watchmaking a huge amount and would love to go back to, I mean, I will do things myself in the future for sure. But I never liked the pressure, the time pressure of watchmaking in a service center, for example. You know, I'd like to create something. I like designing. I particularly like making dials, enameling and whatnot. That's really where my manual skill found its feet. But I think, to be honest, what I actually like out of all of these things is maybe managing. I enjoy working with a team of people a lot. I think I'm pretty good at delegating. I'm not a control freak. I don't like to micromanage.
Goofy team to comment on that if they concur with you.
I'm sure they wouldn't, but rest assured, team, if you don't think that I'm a micromanager, you know,
they can comment because I see that they have too much time on their hands.
Yeah, they're all free. None of them have jobs.
What came in on YouTube as well. Did he eat peanut butter this morning? Somebody at the Fratello desk is asking. Who's this?
Oh, well, it's probably RJ again, just abusing multiple accounts as he normally does.
I sent you an email. I'm still waiting for a reply. Go answer my email instead of bothering us on this live show.
To answer, no, I'm mildly allergic to peanuts, which created an interesting situation when they fed me Joss Brinkies on my first trip to The Hague. Okay. So, yeah.
All right. Bye, RJ. Another colleague. Gerard.
Goodness gracious me.
Asking what's Rob's favorite Dutch snack food.
Bit of ballen.
Question. What flavor? Just a classic?
Classic.
Ragu with veal?
No, classic.
All right. Ed Ashby on YouTube is asking, when is the trip to the Isle of Man for a pint happening?
You know this guy, Ed. We were at watch school together. Ed was a year above me. Quite a few years younger, I think, if I remember rightly. He's a bit of a prodigy. Fantastic skill. Far more skill with tools in his hand than I ever had. And he did his apprenticeship for Cartier. Now works for Roger Smith on the Isle of Man, which is why he wants me to come visit him, along with another good friend of mine, Sean Morris. So I hope soon, Ed, is the answer. Congratulations on your recent marriage. I followed it keenly on Facebook, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to get out there for it. But yeah, as soon as possible. If you give me a couch to sleep on, even sooner.
Nice. Congrats, Ed, and thank you for commenting and watching. William is writing on YouTube. Great show, guys. Thank you so much for all the insights. Very interesting. Thank you for watching again, William. We're happy with your support.
Good man.
Thank you for that. I see Watch Fratelli sent a few questions. He writes on YouTube, why did you leave Nomos and do you own a Nomos? Well, he's proven that he owns Nomos watches still. Would you care to answer for this first part of the question, please?
Yeah, I think it was the right time to move on to a new challenge, and I'd always intended in the back of my mind to go back to journalism when I had the chance. And it's important in watch companies to always have the right team and to make sure that that team is in the right frame of mind to deliver the results that the brand desires. And sometimes that leads to people moving on and the team recycling when you serve your purpose, as it were. And I think I did a good job for Nomos for the 3 years that I was there, but it was definitely time for me to step back from all the traveling. I was really struggling with the pace of it. I was frequently on the road for 3-5 weeks, living out of hand luggage, and there was no respite. And I didn't feel I was as effective as I could have been. So it was the right decision at the time to move on.
Thank you, Telly, for watching and joining. A few more minutes left. I want to pick up a last question from David Harkema. He sent this beforehand. He asks, is it okay to wear a watch whilst cycling, either hand-wound or self-winding?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Certainly modern watches are tested to the extreme of the kind of shocks and impacts they can survive. If you look at some of the Omega Aquaterra range designed specifically around like surviving the G-force of a golf swing, the ones that McElroy promotes, for example, they'd be more than capable of surviving the bumps in the road that you might encounter. If you're doing Gent Wegelam on the cobblestones, you might want to stick with a quartz watch maybe, and certainly a higher train count, something around 36,000 VPH might be better than a slower count of 18,000 or 21.6. But I think it's fine. It depends what you want to use it for. If you're wearing it so that you can check your progress when you get to a coffee shop or a wine bar for a little bit of a pit stop, then go ahead and wear a mechanical. If you just want pure performance, I just wear a cheap quartz watch or just stick with a bike computer. But you'd be fine. Yeah.
Thank you, David, for asking.
Don't fall off, though. Do not fall off.
No.
I have had to repair some horrendously mangled watches from cyclists and motorcyclists that have come off, unfortunately. So
we did too, including all the collarbones.
Yeah, sad times.
To be fixed. Our next episode is next week at 4 p.m. with, I think, your buddy as well, Adam Kraniotes. He's the founder of the Red Bar Crew Today group. I know you co-founded the Manchester chapter.
Right. Yeah, I was one of the original members of the Manchester chapter. I don't know Adam personally, but I'm a big fan of his work.
So that promises to be an exciting episode as well, because he's an even bigger goofball than you. I think he's Lord Goofball in the watch industry.
Whoa. Does he have a lordship, though? Does he have a lordship?
No. That's the lordship we're issuing right now.
Well, that's
Adam, we are looking forward to seeing you next week. He also nowadays writes for Revolution. I think he runs the North America operations for our friend Wyco. So that promises to be a fun episode. So tune in next week. Rob, I want to thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
As usual, speaking and seeing you. Hope to see you soon in the Netherlands over a pint and some bitterballen.
Yes.
We'll leave out the peanuts and the peanut butter.
You're a good man.
So thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
See you soon, buddy.
See you soon.
Take care. And thank you to all the viewers for watching again. We love the passion. Bye.